Hi, I'm host Eric. I was talking with famous people here with host Zachary. Famous person Hami, famous person Hint P, famous person JC, famous person Lorenz, famous person Nandi, famous person Frenzy, famous person Zack Attack. And we're going to be talking about FI, our feelings. I indicated in an earlier video, I believe JC was here maybe, that I was thinking of a good t-shirt in the car today. It was going to say, I've got 7th slot FI. Or potentially, how am I doing? I have no idea. 7th slot FI. That was the original thought that prompted me to do the t-shirt idea. But the point of it
I shouldn't
being,
make me kill the troll t-shirt, but go back to
yeah,
it.
yeah. So the point of it being that as somebody with 7th slot FI, of late I've been thinking about it a lot because because of cognitive function talk and stuff. But I still feel as though I am a little bit uncertain about it in places. I mean, I get what it is better now, even if I don't get my own feelings. But what thoughts do we have that we want to say about this topic? Other people.
I don't know. I would
JC.
say I would say FE. I mean FI is. I would say is good to have, but and at the same time, like in social situations, it's not the best function. I feel like.
Could you elaborate on that?
Like for example, for me as an INTJ, for FI, the good thing about it is that I always know how I feel, and I always know how I feel about something. But at the same time, since it's in the lower stack of end of my function stack, um, it makes it hard for me to like express my emotion and talk with emotion as well. So I always sound
You
like
find that
monotone.
you're averse to it. How do you feel after you've sufficiently expressed emotion?
No, usually it just happens without me even knowing. Like it happens like unconsciously.
Hmm.
It's in your conscious stack, but it happens before you really think, or you just don't really attend to it much, or what?
Like I don't pay attention to it really. It just happens.
Well, I think I think with FI, it's one of those functions that it seems to, even in its conscious form, be less conscious than the other ones. In other words, less determined and more happenstance.
I if I supposedly my role function right in Socionics, is that right?
Yeah.
What is it? What's that? So that's number 8.
Yeah. So does that mean how I come off to people as FI?
That may be the
Yes.
case.
What does that mean exactly? How does someone come off as FI?
I think FI DOMs come off as when it's in the dominant slot, it tends to come off, I guess, as more a little bit colder, um, and more less likely to change your values. Like that's the biggest thing I think with FI DOMs,
That's
where I
perfect.
think
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
I,
Like, um,
I was gonna say
oh
I think it's because TI you're in your head a lot, right? And so
mhm.
you in that regard, TI Dom. So you're considering your own blank. It's possible to imagine if you're looking for whether you're considering your own feelings or thinking to see it as the wrong one. Like for me, according to this model you guys are talking about right now, I would be perceived as SE, perceived as a doer. But you're kind of mistaking doing for playing, right?
mm, yeah, I guess I'm perceived as any. I don't know.
Right, you're actually doing, but you're perceived as playing.
Wait,
Oh.
is your role function your eighth function?
Your role, yeah, your
That
eighth function, or it's your mirror function. So yours would be SI.
So how does someone come off as SI?
I think that you. I think that means you would come off as.
orderly and organized,
Yeah, organized.
but you're
But
not
I'm not
Or
really.
though.
a good relational sense of your your environment and objects in it, how they relate to your identity, right? Like it's gonna be, you're gonna have a good sense of that, you know.
People are going to assume you're an organized person because you're so TE logical. It's easy to mistake that as being really well organized.
Okay.
So the
Wait, so your role
FI means.
function.
Okay, go on.
Wait, so you come off as your role function to other people, but you're still terrible at it.
No, I don't think your
You're not.
role. But your eighth wouldn't be. Oh yeah, it would. Yeah, my bad. I don't think it's that you're terrible at it. I think it's unconscious. That like for
Yeah, it's
me,
unconscious. That's the way to put it. Yeah.
and I believe that to be true about the eighth for me is that I obviously do things because I see things getting done, but I don't think of it as anything, any part of the action. I think of that as like the breathing that goes on underneath. Well, the actual stuff happens up on top, right? The doing. But for somebody, of course, please do.
Yeah,
But
bro.
for
Yeah.
somebody with SE in this with SE in the seventh slot, is an entirely different matter, right? They don't have that going on as well. That's just the reflexive blood pumping, breathing thing going on underneath the surface. That it just happens, right? For them, SE is the trouble, is the trickster one. Like FI for me, it happens. You have no idea where it's fucking going on. Or not. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Hi, Bo.
Hello. Can you hear me?
We
Yep.
can. We're talking about FI. Do you have any thoughts you'd like to chime in?
Yeah, I noticed it a lot in my brother, because I'm FE, so I can like get that vibration off him. But he takes things a lot more personal than I do, and he doesn't really let it like roll off the duck's back to say. Like he doesn't let it pass over him. He kind of internalizes it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I internalize things as well.
What does that mean exactly? To internalize things.
Yeah, isn't everything internal, like motion wise?
I think he personalizes it more.
I mean, I think there's a couple different meanings possible for internalize. One being like, if you don't like my shirt, I think that means you think I have bad taste in shirts. That's one way to mean
Yeah,
internalize.
as if like one of the things he has is that when someone thinks he's wrong, he thinks it's like because there's something inherently flawed, not inherently flawed, not something that's wrong with his logic, that's wrong with him. Like he's taking offense to that. So he kind of avoids conflict in against people who seem more dominant than him. So he has a lot of anxiety when he confronts people who talk over him or who appear more alpha male, or to say.
Is he an
And he gets that a lot of
INFP?
anxiety from thinking that he's not the alpha male because he likes to be the alpha male.
Well, he's not an INFP.
What's this
He,
type of?
well, yeah, what's
He's
his,
an ENTP.
he doesn't have. Wait, you said he has
Which
FI? He's not FI.
ENTPs?
No, we have FE in the third slot.
Oh, you do. Hold on, let me look
It's
that
just
up.
it's because you have FE in the fourth that you're just sort of like, you know.
No, I was gonna add on that it's not even that. It could be as simple as someone. So let's say for example someone insults you, and I mean FE user would tell you right there or like you offended me, but an FI user won't say anything. They'll keep it to themselves and they'll always remember, oh,
Maybe
this
something.
person
I
insulted
don't
me,
know.
and then one day they'll just like lash out at you.
Yeah, I think that's how my FE is. Like, I'm very rarely ever insulted in front of someone, but like usually my FE is so appalled. At first, it's like, did I just get insulted? And then, like, I confront it. I'm just like, whoa, go back. What did you mean by that exactly? Like, that's usually what happens if I get insulted. It very rarely happens though, because people are fucking, they don't like that shit. They don't want confrontation. It's usually the FI users who will talk behind your back. The FE users will talk. They will talk it out. They'll confront it. That's my brother. He'll confront it. But FI users won't, like my mom.
Well, I think
Yeah,
FE users want resolution. For example, it's not okay for me to feel as though it's not enough for me to feel as though I was insulted. If I feel as though I was insulted in some way, I would think I'd want it to be. I'd want some sort of resolution to it. Like for example, does one party acknowledge he was wrong and the other not, or or am I wrong, or what? You know. But whereas if we keep it to yourself, then there's no resolution to it.
No, I think when I'm or if someone says something that I feel sensitive about or I take offense to in some way, I come off as defensive, even though I'm not trying to come off as defensive. Like that's not my intention. My intention is not to like I don't know. I guess I get defensive, but I don't mean to. It's not like what is happening in my head. Um, but what I
Can you
really
get
do
closer to
is
the
not that
mic?
I'm not.
You're a little quiet.
Can you hear me? Can you
Try
hear me
again?
better?
Yeah, it's better.
Um, it's not that I don't want to hear what you hear your critique or whatever it is that you're saying to me. It's more like I don't know. I want to take that and kind of marinate with it by myself, and I'll figure out if what you're saying is accurate or not about myself. And if it's accurate, then okay. And if it's not, then all right, that's fine too. But I don't need you to tell me what. I mean, it's okay. Like, okay, I see your opinion. Like, that's your opinion that you think I do this, and now I'm gonna see myself if I do that actual thing or if I am that way. I'll figure that out over here by myself.
I think
It's
there's
more like that.
a problem with ENTPs for sure. I don't know about other NT types, but I am very impatient to have the issue determined, whatever it is. Like, like I hate it when people say, "Well, I need to go and muse about things," right? Like, well, what's there to muse about? Everything we need to say, I can say. We can lay it all out on the table, and reasonable people can agree, and then we can determine who's, whatever. But I get that's part of the difficulty that I have with that function is it makes me kind of adversarial towards the habits of those with that function.
I think FI and INTPs, where it's really unconscious, I think it manifests as like, I think
Empathy.
that, no, or I'm talking about FI like the eighth slot. Like,
Yeah,
Seventh,
I'm talking. Yeah,
seventh.
if INTPs, FI is in the eighth slot.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Is
INTPs.
it?
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
know.
it said ENTP.
No, no, INTP. INTPs, the FI. I think a lot of time, younger INTPs will hold strong values about things, but they don't realize it. Like they'll think that they have like a logical or reasonable interpretation of the world, but they'll hold logical values that, or they'll hold values that aren't based on logic. They might be based on like a moral stance that they aren't aware of. And I think that's one of the things when INTPs start to develop that they become aware of. I might make a video about that actually.
I think that's why we're usually more conservative than other types. Like not in our politics, but in our personal sense. Like we don't really like to go and like not experiment because we were very explorative types. But I don't think we're very. I don't know. It's hard to describe.
You get what I'm saying though, right? Where it's like there are certain values that INTPs have. I think that it's probably from like it kind of ties in with the SE too, where they're afraid to do shit. They're afraid to like commit to things, perhaps because of like a moral value they have, such as like going out and casually dating, for example. Like
Yeah.
I think a lot of INTPs might think that that's like they don't want to like casually date or they don't want to like have like casual like sexual interactions with people because they have like a moral stance on it, but they think they're just being reasonable in the sense of like, oh well, I'm just waiting for like a person I get along with a lot, but in reality they might have a moral stance on it that they aren't conscious of. You know what I mean?
The way I kind of see FI, but I'm not sure if this is the correct way, is that you see it from the inner perspective of the individual opposed to the outer perspective of the individual, and that's why I said empathy, because you get more impressions from FI because you're looking at it from a inner perspective. So I guess that correlates more to what you're trying to like feel as your directive or stuff, like for your internal values and stuff. So I guess that correlates to what you're trying to say, that we have this inner values within us that tries to that expresses itself through FI.
I think it's worth
Yeah.
bringing up again from our earlier conversation the notion that FI and FE could be thought of as which one will take care of itself. So FI users think other people will take care of their own emotions. They're fine. That's their business. I'll let them worry about themselves. Whereas FE users will think, I'll be fine. I'm not fussy. I don't need to worry about me and my feelings here. As long as everybody else is happy, I'll have a good time. I'll figure out something to do, whatever.
Can you give me your explanation of the difference between the E and the I's in each one?
Well, that was the F. I can do three of them. That was the F. T is it's important. Who is it important that has clear control of the understanding? In other words, do you assume your brain is producing good enough thinking and the important thing, and you prove that it is when you present it into the external world in some fashion, usually in some sort of utility? I know it's true because it works. And then the introverted thinker, it's important that their own beliefs are consistent within their own head, and it doesn't really matter whether other people understand why they're right. What's important is that the other things other people are telling me to do conform with my own thinking. Not with the rules, with my own thinking. So basically, it's TE says other people's understanding matters. TI says my understanding matters. And then SI says those objects out there don't matter. This object matters. Those objects will take care of themselves. SE says this object will take care of itself. Those objects matter. So it's for those three anyway. It makes sense to think of it as which one matters and which one will take care of itself.
I like the way you view it as like one's covering for a deficiency in the other's perspective.
I try to phrase them neutrally, so that it not doesn't favor one. I try to.
TI is so much better, right?
Totally, of course it is.
I wish I was an INTJ. I always wanted to be an INTJ because
I
how
wish I was
pragmatic.
an ENTJ. I wish I was.
I think INTPs are so useless.
I know. I feel so like
Yeah,
I
but you
feel
guys are the most
so,
logical
like,
though.
impractical. I feel so impractical.
Yeah, impractical. Yeah, like I have all this knowledge, but just because I'm right doesn't mean it's going to be like a grade or something that's going to be applied to the world. I just feel as if I just have this status of not pretentiousness, but of it's not superiority. It's about that I think I'm more proper than other people.
I totally get it. INTPs have an aristocratic soul.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I have that completely. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like it's sort of like it's like a,
Imperious.
it's almost like a innate contrarianism, almost. Where it's like, aristocrat's the best way I can describe it. It's like we like to think our values are higher ideals. At least that's how I view my own values and self. Even if it might not necessarily be true to other people's perspective, they're wrong, and I'm right.
And there goes roll FI.
Yeah, I actually relate to that as well. As an INTJ.
Aristocratic soul.
Or
Yeah, in the sense that, like, I
No, that's NI though.
yeah, like I view my ideals and my ideas as higher than like most people.
It's because the NI DOMs are directly in contact with their unconscious. They're constantly being exposed to internal objects that other types just don't have the advantage of being exposed to.
well,
I envy NI types because of that.
what I hear from Hami is the flip side, although less far along in the aging perspective, but of the of my ability to be comfortable with NI. I'd like to think I've gotten pretty good at relying on it, which is what you get good at. You don't get good at using it. You get good at relying on it. If you're an NE dom, right? I think Hami's not not far away from NE. Like I hear possibilities all the time. It's just not something that he probably sees them as productions of NI. Just as until I thought about it a lot, I thought about my stuff more as productions of NE without really recognizing the NI part for what it was.
I think
Yeah,
that
that's.
any. Oh, sorry.
Oh, you can go.
Okay, I think that any is probably the key tool INTP has for like rationalization. I think unless one equips it, then they're really stuck on themselves so much that they can't really get out and explore more.
Exactly. You getting stuck in the TISI loop. You have no new
Yeah,
information. You're going to constantly categorize and reorganize the information you already have and come to no new conclusions. You'll come to the same ones over and
exactly.
over again if you don't engage your NE. Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's interesting to hear you guys talking about having being so similar and yet just having it in the reverse order as me, and so you guys are have a different set of problems than I have. You know, I got my own set of problems that go along with being an ENTP. You guys have your own set of problems that go along with being an INTP, and you guys identify with each other's problems totally. And I'm just sitting there going, that's really it's cool to see and interesting to see how. Because I see this model being validated so much all the time, and I rarely see it being invalidated by the data that I see. Now, granted, there's going to be some confirmation bias on my part, I'm sure, but not that much confirmation bias. I see people of the same type. Or if I determine somebody's type and I start saying, so you probably do this, and they go, I don't know. I mean, it's pretty convincing to me.
Yeah, I find that the model is pretty consistent, honestly. Like there might be some confirmation bias, like you said, but because it is a subjective model, but it just feels so. The more I garner information, and now it's so easy to like pick up on behavior, and like okay, I finally figured out my father was an ESTJ, so now I know how to deal with him now. Anytime he like tells me, starts bossing me and shit, I all I say is like, I'm sorry, next time I'll do better. And that has minimized all of our problems. Like it's completely like eliminated now. Like we have like the best relationship ever because I learned that, like all I have to do is just say I'm sorry. Even if I'm not sorry. I just have to say that and like that's enough.
Yeah, I don't really like the prescriptive aspect of the like examination because I think a lot of people get stuck on what type they are rather than identifying the functions within themselves.
Mm.
Oh
So
yeah,
I just like the raw analysis of what the different ways we can view things.
right. Me
Yeah.
too. I agree with you. I don't like the MBTI stuff divorced from the cognitive functions. To me, it doesn't
Yeah.
seem to be. It seems to be of only very shallow interest, and then something to move past quickly. When you get the cognitive
Yeah.
functions in place, then it becomes a lot more interesting. It's like to think of it as manners of attention and directionalities, so to speak, of attention. To me, it makes it very concrete, like something you can reference in your own experience to think, oh yeah, there was that day when I sat in the car and I was thinking about X, Y, Z, A, B, and C, and not D, E, F, G, H, I, and that's pretty consistent, reflecting in my behavior. So
Yeah, I feel like MBTI is like way too generalized, and it almost seems like astrology.
Astrology.
Anyone can relate to any type.
Yeah, exactly. When I first started out, like I related to most, if not all of them, especially like trying to discern whether or not you're an INTJ, an INTP, or an INFJ by reading personalitypage.com. You'll never fucking figure it out. You gotta look into the shit.
Because when you're judging it, you have to look at one or the other. You have to choose one side. So it becomes almost binary in the sense that If you are somewhere in between, then it just divides you along that line.
JC, was
And
that
also,
you who was talking?
Yeah, I just said that I never ever thought I was an int. Well, I mean, I guess when I first looked at it, I could have been an ISFP, but I was just like, nah, I'm way too extroverted. So then I was stuck between ESFP and ENFP, and those are the only two I've ever really been for real stuck.
Right. Well, and I think the reason why cognitive functions are important is because those descriptions, when you see the descriptions and you see the INFP and ENFP, you assume, and often the descriptions assume those are really similar types. And it does so happen that ENFP and INFP are similar, but ENFP and ESFP are not that similar.
But we really are,
Are you?
though.
Are you guys?
I I think behaviorally we're very similar.
I would say
ESFP
that too.
On
goes.
the surface,
What does
on the
ESFP
surface,
goes? FE, then what?
S
SI?
ESFP,
SEFI.
SETENI. And
Okay.
ENFP is NEFITESI.
Okay. I was thinking about. I was thinking about the. I don't know. I was confused.
Yeah, I would also say that the MBTI descriptions, like they also feed into stereotypes of each type to the extreme.
Yeah, they do definitely.
So if you think you're an ISTP, they make you out to be like this physical specimen that is basically a mechanic.
Yeah,
Or or if you're an INTJ, you're some evil mastermind genius that's gonna take over the world.
yeah. If you're INDP, you're Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
I wish I was an INTJ. Man, if I had their NE, I'd be so much more successful. But NI, not NE.
Well,
I want the NI just so I can engage my unconscious easier, so I can
Yeah.
become aware of internal objects. That's what I want.
um, the thing is, the descriptions in general are problematic for me because they don't allow. They don't talk at all about how framing things through this model allows you to metacognate and adjust certain things. So that I like the descriptions that say they explain things like during this period of life, a person is more likely to prioritize like FE because, and it gives me some intuitively understandable reason why there'd be a shift and they get better over time at this FE and how it will reflect differently in different time periods. And if those things could match up with my experience, I like that a lot, you know? So I think that the MBTI thing, one of its downfalls is that it's a single description that's supposed to be sort of time neutral, usually.
Yeah, well, the thing about the flexibility of the actual Jungian cognitive function or cognitive model is that depending on, I feel like your your early functions are pretty, or your highest functions are pretty much going to be set in stone. But I feel like everyone's life experiences develop their lower functions in a different way. Then that's what differentiates two INTPs, for example, from each other, or two ENTPs and stuff like that. It's going to be the functions are going to develop in a different way, their lower functions at the least, and that leads to a lot of the different what would be considered subtyping or differences in the stereotype. You know. I wish I could just be an INFJ and keep my TI as it is right now. Like if it would just stay at this development and I could just transform into an INFJ.
Yeah, I would have killed to be an INFJ.
Really? Would you kill another would you kill an INFJ if you could siphon their fucking like
Their outfit. I don't know, I probably would.
once your transformation was complete, you'd feel really bad about it. Right? Because you're FE.
Yeah. That's true. But I've used my TI to rationalize myself out.
Uh,
I think that the whole cognitive function model really is built on a simple premise that something has to stay. You have to on these channels of experience, these four channels of experience, feeling. Let's just do just judgment two first, judging functions. That they in each of these channels, you have to have one side of it that stays put, that's locked down, right? And the other side is flexible, and you can move it around and use it. And the reason being because otherwise you'd have no leverage. You'd have nothing to push the force off against to make things move, so to speak. And and that's what the extroverted introversion is. It's the part you're blind to because it has to stay put, locked down, so that you have control over the other part. Like this, where it pivots on this elbow thing. It can't you can't just take this off and put it up here and have it floating around without attached to anything because it would just be floppy. You have to have it attached on one end. So that's what the part that you assume is static. You can't go through the universe, which is constantly changing, a constant series of processes around us, without turning it into static objects consciously. That's the ones we can do it with consciously. And unconsciously, we have to assume the other half of the static thing we're turning into a static object is not a thing that you can do anything with. Right? You have to assume you have to it has to be one of the things before you can start assuming.
I saw from a title from a video from the other day about dreaming and your dreams being focused on your inferior function. Is that true?
That's what somebody posited, and it confirmed with the group, but I don't know. I've never read it or.
Okay. I didn't listen to that conversation, but I saw that title. Okay, and after that, I was talking to one of my friends I hadn't talked to in a while, and I decided to try to type him, and he let me. So I was asking questions, and I asked him what he dreamed about. And I was thinking he was an INFP after this point, and he said he dreamed about breaking the law, and then like feeling bad about it, but continuously breaking the law, like that. He repeatedly would dream about shit like that, and I thought like that is like the perfect like TE inferior dream, like that is spot fucking on.
That would be TE inferior. And so
Yeah,
what?
yeah. As soon as he said that, it reminded me of that video, and I was like, "Oh my god, like that's so fucking accurate. It makes
What
so
do
much sense."
what did anybody who didn't chime in about their dreams before on that point? If this sounds resonant to you, just let us know because it's the idea that like I dream about. I don't know if I dream about SI stuff, but I will say that my settings in my dreams tend to be places from my childhood.
Really,
Yeah, like my grandma's
my
house is a
dreams
frequent setting in
focus
my
around.
dreams.
I always have people from past bonds, relationships that have gone bad or have somehow deteriorated. Like
Yo,
that's usually what. Yeah, that's what I dream about most of the time. Like people who like I burned bridges of, I will repeatedly dream about them for years.
No, my
Oh,
dreams are usually like I'm like the last survivor in like this Walking Dead type world where I have to survive basically.
Like SE, that's like SE shit.
damn. Um,
Survival.
My dreams are like weird. Like they're like things that could happen in the real, like they're not like crazy things like people flying or anything that goes against physics. It's just things that are very, very unlikely to happen. Like it'll be friends that I know from two random places who are like a million miles away from each other, and we'll all be having a discussion together at some mutual place, and I'll be like, "This is weird because these people don't know each other," you know?
Well,
I
okay,
don't
you
know.
inferior at NI, right?
Yeah.
Well, see, okay, the way Jung depicts NI is like pretty much like awareness of internal objects from like the unconscious. So based on that description of it, like your dreams would be composed of like direct symbols from your unconscious telling you shit. So
Yeah.
maybe that's why
she
you.
just explained a dream where she didn't get something. They were doing something she didn't get
I don't.
why.
Yeah, I don't get any of my dreams. My dreams are weird. Like,
That
I mean,
makes
they're not.
sense. You're like,
Uh,
what's this supposed to mean? That's a very ni kind of a dream. It's just not a ni doing what it's supposed to do, but failing to do what it's supposed to do.
hmm.
Inferior and I.
I guess I never
This is
thought
so.
about
Who posited that idea? That's like brilliant because it seems like it's so applicable.
Well, the thing is, I don't. What's funny about dreams with me, I remember sort of the settings of my dreams more than I remember what happens in them. And I remember, to me, when I talk about dreams, I think like, well, dreams are weird because the setting changes in the middle of the dream. Now, probably settings change in a lot of people's dreams, but to me, that's what I remember from it. Maybe.
My Faith's dreams. She is inferior NE. She always remembers the landscapes in her dreams. I think that refers to her NI or her SI, but everything that happens in her dreams is always like a connection that's really fucking random and doesn't make any sense. Like that's such an inferior anything. That like that is it's so perfect. Like it's so applicable. Everything that everyone who I know their type of asked about the dream thing, it seems to apply like exactly to their fucking experiences. It's so
So,
it's strange to me.
what is the rule with the dreams?
What here's what I think may be happening with that in general is that cause I believe I probably dream about lots of different shit that could be applied to any of those things. So I think it's applied. I think it's important to ask the following question. You ask the question before you explain the dream thing at all. Okay, so you ask them like, if you were to say what you dream about, talk about your dreams a bit, and you make note of what they talk about first, second, third, right? And then you try to draw a little bit more out of them and see if they start to repeat some of those same themes at all. And you also make a note of what they don't talk about at all. So to me, that's what they're valuing in their remembering of their dreams. And people are going to remember some and not others, whatever. The stuff that they remember about their dreams is probably that's what the dream's function is to bolster that weak thing with some
Oh yeah,
by
the
making you remember
unconscious is trying
that
to
part.
develop the conscious life.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. But yeah, but
Can you
that sounds
imagine what it'd be
good.
like being like an ENTJ and just every night you just dream that you're feeling a different emotion? How fucking cool would that be?
Oh,
Well,
how
what
do you
if we?
determine the dreams depending on the functions?
Oh, it's the four. What the theory is that you dream by your fourth slot function. So for you, it would be
FE.
FE. So you'd be
Yeah, I
dreaming,
used that.
but what I'm positing is that instead of it actually representing what you dream, it represents what you take away from the dreams.
Yeah, I used to have a lot of terror dreams. Like that
To,
dream I told you about in my comments, that I wasn't able to make any sense or sensory experience from my environment. I was terrorized by that. I was in like a complete shock that I wasn't able to control anything. So that really resonates with FE, like having a external trauma that's going on around you, and
I,
that's what I took around it, and that made me think that I have to develop my own internal monologue or my internal like SI to organize my reality afterwards.
well, if it were okay, so according to this notion, for you, you would probably have dreams that are not involving the emotion you felt, which is terror, so much as the concerns of, or that you'd be concerned about somebody else having. Like I had a dream a long, long time ago um, of like my parents flying away on a hot air balloon. Because there's that, I to the extent that I what I felt in that dream is kind of fuzzy. But if it were to be an FE dream, I would remember that my parents were looking panicked, right? then whatever the reason it was so striking to me would be that. Now, I don't remember if those things happened in that dream or not. It was a long enough time ago. But that would be a good example of a difference, in my opinion, of an FE dream versus an FI dream. FE would remember the kid would remember the scared look on their parents' face, or remember their parents not caring, and that being the problem, or something like that. Whereas the FI person would remember that dream as the terror they felt about the separation, perhaps. It still involves other people, but it's the frame of attention.
For me, it's more about my environment. Like I'm usually running away from something, or I'm
Yeah, that
about
happens to me a lot
to.
too.
Okay, now Bo myself identifies as an INTP, but I still maintain that it's quite possible he's an ENTP. Although usually when I'm not sure, he's an INTP. So I don't know.
Uh, I have an ENTP brother, and the way we think is it's not reversed. It's almost the same, but you can tell he has NE first by the way he gathers his information. So he doesn't really. I'm more of a shoot first person, analyze later with my NE. He's more of look at all the possibilities and then choose an option with your thinking.
That's you got it backwards. Shoot first is ENTP.
Really,
Yeah. Think
I
first
thought
is
NE
think.
is not
No,
NE.
NE does this. Ooh, possibility. Jump. Okay, what
Yeah, he
damage is
sees
it?
all the possibilities and he thinks about him.
Yeah, well, he okay. Yeah, if you're the one who acts before they think is ENTP.
Why is that?
Well, because we start with extroverted intuition, so we're looking at possibilities all the time. SE is our eighth slot, which means periodically it says by its own decision making, we don't really think about it. We just suddenly pull the trigger on one of them.
I think it's because my TI gives me such a confidence in my own ability to format ideas
Well, I knew you were a
that,
debater. I know you were a debater, but and the reason I think you might be an INTP is because you talk about having trouble getting shit done, and you feel like not really you're accomplishing a bunch of shit, right?
yeah,
So okay, so that's the issue about the pull the trigger thing. The pull the trigger thing is hard for ENTPs when they're young because we're not positioned well. Usually, people don't understand what to do with us, and um, but beyond that, the thing is, for me, my experience of it is any is possibilities that I'm seeing in front of me all the time. Which, like, I might be sitting down here, I'm smoking a cigarette, and I have to leave in 10 minutes or something. I will almost start making videos saying let's GTM until I remember, okay, I can't do that. I gotta go to this other thing. But there's lots of times where I'll pull the trigger on shit that it's a bad time to choose to do that, whatever it is. But it just happened. I said, oh, let's do this right now. That's what it means to have NE number one and SE eight. I don't know why or when or how or if I know I do pull the trigger on shit all the time, but it just doesn't register with me.
I feel like I get conceptions of like what I could be doing, and I think about doing it, and I'm like, ah, yeah, that would be really fun, and then I just don't do it.
yeah, you get lost in the possibilities because you're
Yeah,
so
I start
yeah,
thinking. Yeah, I get like I think about like the ways in which it could be fun, and that makes it enjoyable to me. Thinking about that, and then I never end up doing it.
yeah.
Do you guys have any recurring dreams that repeatedly happen to you? There are two that
Well,
I have.
I have like recurring I have recurring dreams that have similar themes. I would say.
Do you remember that Return the Slab guy from Courage the Cowardly Dog?
Yeah.
That thing used to terrify me. I have dreams about that all the time.
Wait, do you know? Do you remember the episode with the pigs?
The pigs. Which one was that?
Like where Courage he goes in the kitchen and he finds out that the pig chef is actually eating humans.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
That shit used to like freak me out like every time I went to sleep when I was younger.
Hold on, guys. Let's stop this. Let's stop this video real quick. I'm gonna stop this one. I'm going to. I'm an exactly organizer, and I'm gonna bail. I gotta go to sleep. I'm tired. I'll see you guys later. Thanks very much. Thanks for watching. Talking with famous people too.